Our guest tonight for the first night of Kwanzaa is one who is familiar to us. He was a guest with us way back in 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Raleigh City Councilor Corey Branch. He's a native of Raleigh and has served Raleigh as District C council member and mayor pro tem, with a focus on improving the availability of housing for those of all incomes, a modern and reliable transit system, economic development for underserved communities and populations, and programs to aid and assist in development of our youth and in young adults in Raleigh. Corey attended Wake County Public Schools throughout his matriculation and continued his education at North Carolina A&T State University, graduating in 2000 with a degree in electrical engineering. He exemplifies Aggie pride by giving financially, and he returns often to Greensboro for special events and sporting activities in support of the institution that contributed so much to his development as a leader, a thinker, and a doer. He serves at Baptist Grove, where he worships, and he is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Truly, Corey appreciates the opportunity to represent his native District C as City Council member, and he has some exciting news to share with us about that. But here's where I get excited about Corey's bio. Corey is my husband. He's married to me, y'all. He's married to me for the last 10 years. We have a beautiful daughter, Carly, who just celebrated her 5th birthday. She is the joy and the light of our lives. And as a family, we enjoy traveling and relaxing, sports. We love Netflix. We love good food, good conversation. And I am thrilled that Corey Branch is here with me. And as a special surprise, y'all, dun, 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 he is live in the studio. I didn't have to even Skype him in. Look at that. Y'all, welcome, Corey.
Thanks for having me.
Happy Kwanzaa.
I'm glad I was able to come to the room.
I have kept him out of here all this time. But tonight, I am so excited that you are here. And I am especially excited that you are returning to Kwanzaa. Recap for me how you remember that first streaming episode that we ever did.
It was interesting. It was an adventure. You were all over the place, but you had great help. You had a great team that was working with you. Unfortunately, one of the team members is no longer with us.
Mm-hmm.
But just, that teamwork, that's what pulled it off, because you thought of it really almost last minute.
Yes,
And
very
pulling
last
it
minute.
together.
That's the truth. And what I appreciated was the immediate response of yes. Everybody was like, that's a fantastic idea. Let's do it. And everybody just kind of pitched in and helped me. They jumped in front of their cameras and agreed to interview, and we had a great time. And this season two has proved to be no less enthusiastic. Like, I'm still getting yeses from people. They're a little slow
Definitely.
rolling in because people are busy. Like, the world is open again.
Yeah.
You remember in 2020, I think part of it was like, we don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot going on dealing with COVID and
Mhm.
not knowing the impacts COVID was going to have on our lives, and just
Mhm.
trying to, maneuver. And I think people being in place then kind of help with that accessibility. And people are starting to get used to Zoom calls after Zoom calls,
That is.
from going forward.
Yeah. Well, so since we started there, we started with the conversation around what 2020 looked like. Y'all remember 2020? We remember what 2020 looks like in terms of unity, which is our theme for the night. Let's talk a little bit about like how things have shifted. And we didn't know in 2020 that we were still in the throes of COVID. We honestly thought we were on the back end of that and that we were ready to emerge and we were coming back outside. We found out differently, and there have been some long lasting effects. So now that we're here in 2023, do you have a different perspective about what the pandemic did to Black families and communities?
Definitely. I think it there was some positive things that occurred.
Hmm.
And also I think some negative. I think some families, COVID, it brought them so close together, it almost brought them apart.
Mm.
Because when you're constantly going and doing, and everyone all gets in their own routine and their own groove of doing their own thing, and then COVID says stop, come together,
Hmm.
and some people knew how to adjust, some didn't. I think coming out of this, mental health is something that we've probably paid more attention
Hmm.
to making sure that everyone gets the assistance and the hope and the help that they need, to address things. It's okay to reach out for counseling. It's okay to talk to someone that's not living in your life day to day
Yeah.
to help you cope with those challenges. But at the same time, in bringing us together, I think people got a better understanding of their loved one, a better understanding of relationships. And also, you learn to appreciate people a lot more.
That's what I was thinking.
You know, I think back, being an A&T grad that you mentioned, a lot of friends out of that would always say, well, I'll make it to the next homecoming. I'll make it to the next homecoming. I think people took the time to say, you know what? I'm not going to push things off.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and do it now. Let me take that trip with my family.
Hmm.
Let me spend that time. Let me go ahead and go back to school,
Yeah.
if that's my dreams. So I think that intentionality out of COVID is something that's been very helpful.
I think you're right. I think that when you speak about appreciating people, we lost a lot. We lost a lot of people, and they weren't just elders. They weren't just seniors. They weren't. We lost a lot of people, our own age, our peers, and we've lost people since then. And I think that you know, the understanding that tomorrow's not promised. We don't know what the future holds. And so we have to act and behave in ways that we are able to just enjoy our lives and enjoy the gift that living is. I think that's something that definitely came out of that. And in 2023, looking back, I definitely see that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, 2023 has been a very challenging year. Um, I've lost some very close friends, this past year. My father had been
Hmm.
sick, this past year, but he's doing well
Hmm.
now. He's home. So 23, I think for me, has been very intentional in recognizing what's really important. And it's
Hmm.
really the people you're around, the lives that you touch, material things that come and go.
Yeah.
But it's those relationships. And I think the key is the way we keep a person alive
Hmm.
is remembering the good times, but remember the things that motivated them some.
Yeah.
If they were a giving person, if they were out, take up that initiative.
Yeah.
Take that and say, you know what, I normally don't do this, but such and such did this, so I'm going to do this, and interject this. And this is my way of remembering them.
Right. To honor them and to lift up their memory in a significant way. I love that so many people have gone from like, don't send flowers, make a donation to this entity. Those kinds of things show that their loved ones really understand what was
Hmm.
important to them and want to perpetuate that and move that forward. So, as we're talking about 2023, we have had to like show some exceptional unity as a family. So, like, how exactly do we pull together as a family? And that's not only just examples from our day to day lives, but also, what are some things that might be good practices for everybody?
I think the first thing is being more intentional and calling somebody.
Hmm.
There's we have loved ones, we have friends that we may not see every month, every week, or whatever. But it's great to text, but sometimes it's good. Pick up the phone, make that phone call,
Yeah.
hear that voice.
Hmm.
That's that connection, that familiarity that you have with one another. Visiting people when you can. I've had some good conversations with friends the last couple of weeks, and we said, we're going to be more intentional,
Yeah.
and just getting together and just spending time.
Hmm.
It's not about work, it's not about business. It's just, especially as Black men,
Yeah.
of us just getting
Yes.
together and just spending time. We've talked about connecting with people, our friends that have kids,
Hmm.
to make sure our daughter has an opportunity to interact and have time. And we're going to be doing something, next year, already, as a family,
Yep.
and spending time and things of that nature. So I think it's just real important to be intentional. And that's where you get better understanding
Hmm.
of what's going on, and then you notice when something's off. You
Yeah.
notice when
Yeah,
something's
that's true.
different. So you can speak to it and kind of go from there.
That's absolutely right. And I think that the nature of our busy lives, being two working parents who also have political and social lives to keep up with, I think that the intentionality for us, right down to like the shared calendar, knowing where
Yeah.
everybody is and who's got appointments this week and who's going to be responsible for getting Carly to the next point, and how our extended family plays into that. We have to be real intentional and clear about like what our needs are and what's supposed to be happening so that we can get to that. Because thank God for in-laws and
Yeah.
in-loves and grandparents and godparents and that village that's around
Right.
us that is also working in tandem. We could not do
A village is helping us now do this because
exactly, exactly.
Carly's with family members
Hmm.
and everything, so that we can record and do this work. But she's also getting the same love and attention
Hmm.
and training
Yeah. Uh-huh.
that is needed.
Yeah. So it's a village, but it's a village of like-minded people who we know have the same values and the same principles
Hmm.
that we do. As we speak about Kwanzaa and the seven principles. So let me ask you this next one: does the same apply for community? Do you think that it's about intentionality and being very meticulous in the scheduling and the thought process and what goes into it and being like-minded? Do you think the same goes for a community, or are there some different hallmarks that we need to look for?
It's both. I think the things that are the same is being out in the community,
Mm,
being out, seeing each other. We were just the other day when we were at the store, we stopped to get something to eat, and I ran to an old classmate.
hmm.
You don't do that if you're just sitting at home ordering the food and having it delivered to your house.
Yeah.
So it's about going out and interacting with one another, and being that assistance and being that aid. Everybody's at different places in lives,
Hmm.
and someone always told me is that you need to have people in different places in your life,
Yeah.
around you, so you don't lose sight of where you've been, but you
Yeah.
also have hope of where you want to go, and things of that nature. So it's real important as a community. And community is not just the 4 blocks or 5 blocks that you live on. Community is not just the city you're in. Community is anyone that you connect with, anywhere that you go. We have family and friends in other states.
Yeah.
That we can always just pick up the phone, say, "How you doing?" All right, hey, I'm coming to town. And instead of having to get in a hotel room, they're like, "Stay here with us,"
Hmm.
and things of that nature. So that's what community. And I think having that exposure,
Yeah.
it then opens your eyes to possibilities and opportunities. Because sometimes we can get so bogged down by just our location or just
Yeah.
our city.
Yeah.
But also, it means making sure that you can have impact locally, because the biggest place where we have the most impact is always going to be local. And but don't forget about what's happening in the world.
Hmm.
You got people who are fighting, who are starving. Everyone doesn't have the benefits of what we have in the US, and everyone in the US doesn't have the same benefits either.
That's
So
true.
so when we talk about unity and we talk about coming together, it's all about finding the thing that you can do,
Hmm.
because no one person can do it all.
Mm.
So it's going to take all of us. It's going to take team. And that's what I think about when I think about community. When I think about going out, not just Raleigh, Durham, Cary, Nightdale, but what about Charlotte? What about DC? What about Boulder, Colorado,
Yeah.
think about the different places you've been and experience. All of those things lead up to who we are. And that's really community.
And I think there's so much to learn. So when I think about community, I think in terms of the different bubbles of my life that sort of bump into other bubbles. And
Mhm.
I was having some conversation with folks the other day, and I was like, well, have we reached out to anybody else who's going through the same thing? And in my mind, that was the most natural next step to help us address what's going on here. I needed to know what was happening in a similar community
Mhm.
elsewhere. So if there's somebody that I can reach out to there and exchange information or get
Right.
some tips or tricks, I do it with my mommy circle all the time. I will call people and be like, is anybody else's baby doing X, Y, and Z? Or is anybody else experiencing such and such? Like, why won't she do this? Or why can't I get her to? And sometimes reaching out to other moms, especially when I was new to motherhood, having my own mom was one thing. But your own mama is gonna give you
How they
exactly
raised you, what
exactly
they
what
did
they
for
got,
you.
right?
Yeah.
And so, when my mom didn't breastfeed, I did. And so I couldn't go to her for that information because she didn't have a touch point with it. And so, I built my own community around that. And I'm telling you, I got a million tips, a million tricks. I got all the hacks. I got all the stuff. I mean, right down to sisters offering to bring milk to my house, their own milk. Like they were like, well, the baby not gonna go hungry. We're gonna take care of this, but let's figure out along the way. So reaching into other what you think are separate communities,
They all connected.
they're all connected. I love the fact that we as Black people too are very, very giving. And in terms of our knowledge base and our
Mhm.
wisdom, we are willing to sit down and share with you. And, I just appreciate that. I don't know that that happens in other cultures. I hope it does. But I know for a fact that as Black people, we are always willing to sit down and explain how something works or how we did it, how we got
Mhm.
over.
Yeah, I mean, even if we're wrong, um, you know, I mean, I'm not perfect. There's some things I've explained and it wasn't right, but when I said it, it sounded like it was 100%
It
right.
sounded good in the moment.
It sounded good in the moment, but the key is in unity and all of that, being willing to even admit when you are wrong,
Hmm.
because it shows that humility that
Hmm.
that you have and that you care. I think that's the main thing of uniting people understanding that you care.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that too is innate to our
Yeah.
culture. We care deeply about ourselves. We care deeply about our families. We care deeply about our communities. And I think a lot of times that's why you see people like really raising a ruckus and people are like, why don't they calm down somewhere? And I'm like, no, they're
It's
passionate
passion.
about their community and they want to draw people together to get to the best result. So I never fought people for being passionate. even even
Yeah.
sometimes when it's aimed the wrong way or when
Yeah.
it's not maybe projected the way that I would do it, I still have to respect the passion that they are bringing to the table, into the
Yeah.
conversation.
And sometimes that's when you see the emotion, you recognize it, but you listen to the words,
Hmm.
because the words will tell you sometimes, another even more information and more message, because sometimes people get caught up in the emotion of
Yeah.
how it looks and
Hmm.
how they're acting and their tone,
Hmm.
but they forget to listen to the words.
Yeah. Yeah. That listening can do a lot to help us come together and unify. Come on, just listen sometimes. So I want to know. I know you've seen a lot of work in the community taking place, and I want to ask you about when you've seen something that has truly been effective. Like when have you truly seen a community come together and unify for a purpose?
I'm going to use Pastor Christopher Jones
Hmm.
with Ship of Zion Church.
Hmm.
They opened a store on South Saunders Street, um, but it started first giving food away.
Hmm.
But then they recognized as they were working with people who are unhoused, are people who are maybe coming out from incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have the attire or the means to take care of themselves. So in opening this store, this establishment, it gives them a chance to come in and get something to help them
Yeah.
and move them forward. That's one step. I know there's others where people have gone and talk to work with our young people.
Mm-hmm.
Work with kids as a group. Team Truth 919, and I know Catch the Kite,
Yeah.
and they're working with our young men and women. Our teenagers, our kids, and they really have done a lot to try to come together, meet with the young people on one night, but meeting with the parents
Mm.
on another night. So there you have that whole family.
Mm-hmm.
And then this where you talk about a unit and forming that unity. So if you want to help people improve and restore and keep hope, those are some of the things. And I think, out of the sad incident that happened at Southeast Raleigh High School, I saw the community try to come together
Mm-hmm.
and work. A lot of times people say, well, where's this group or where's that group? Well, at that time, all the groups were there.
Right.
And
Right.
I think sometimes we get caught up in past hurt and
Mm-hmm.
past pain
Mm-hmm.
that we miss what's directly before us
Right.
and
New
what's directly in front of
opportunities.
us. And sometimes we just have to take a deep breath and reset. And in that reset, give people space and grace,
Yeah.
to come forward and help. So those are different avenues and things I've seen throughout the community and throughout the city.
Mm-hmm. So you already touched on this one a little bit, but what are some of the resources that are out there that maybe folks are not taking advantage of, but could help us unify um, organizations, individuals, programs, things that are happening that could give us an opportunity to come together and to figure out what the next best step is.
Well, there's a lot of groups out there working in mentoring youth. There's a young lady, Tatiana Cooper,
Hmm.
working with young ladies in high school. Sage, she has a big waiting list.
Hmm.
She has over 100 girls on her waiting list. She's working with 25 right now. I think, making sure that we can, a lot of times we talk about a group or an area that needs help, but sometimes we forget about helping those who are doing the work.
That part.
And I
That
think
part.
from a unity standpoint, being able to do that, I know we always talk about the YMCA, the Boys Club, but we also got to remember Helping Hand Mission
Yeah.
and the work that they do
Yeah.
and touching lives and touching people. Continue. We still have a lot of churches out here doing
Hmm.
great work. I know Redeeming Love has a place for seniors, and
Yeah.
they meet almost like every day on a around noon. At least I know they meet on Wednesdays, so that's usually when they ask me to come to just talk and socialize and interact. And I think those are good avenues and things. And then we have groups across the city, in the other areas in the other communities. Over at Method Road doing work. Out in Briar Creek, there's
Hmm.
organizations that are meeting at the community centers, and the churches and in the community. So I mean, there's a lot. One thing about the city we're in, Raleigh, is not a sleepy town.
No.
There's
No. No.
always
No.
something going on. And sometimes that gets people caught up because you have 4 or 5 events going on at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And I haven't figured it out. But if someone else can on how to duplicate yourself and be in multiple places at the same time, let me know. But I'm just one person, one unit. So I think, what we can do to share information, going to different websites, doing searches.
Hmm.
There are a lot of groups for those that maybe need mental health,
Hmm.
those that need housing assistance, Triangle Family Services, Passage Homes, the HIC. There's a lot of different things and opportunities from young people to our seniors to the unhoused to those who are housed.
Yeah.
And then we got to
But
think,
struggling to keep that
yeah,
housing.
and those that are struggling to keep their house and doing those things. But also, there's some people out here who are doing well.
Hmm.
They're doing good. They're starting businesses, and we have to make sure we support those
Hmm.
businesses, and the things that are going on and those entrepreneurs. I think about Johnny Hatchett and
Yeah.
the work that he's done, and people know when you start a business, you may start one, may not work out right. They start another. I mean, we look at Bill Gates with Microsoft. Microsoft wasn't his first business.
No.
Anyone that uses seasoning on their food, Heinz 57,
Mm-hmm.
57 wasn't their first
Recipe.
recipe. It's Heinz 57 for a reason.
Right.
So we just have to continue to do that and give that grace.
Well, and now um, we have some organizations whose purpose is to simply be connectors for all of the other individual organizations that are doing work, sort of like clearinghouses.
Yeah, I mean, I think of the Southeast Raleigh Promise.
Hmm.
They do a lot of work in trying to bringing organizations and groups together. I think there's a big focus on government to do that, and I think governments now, especially local governments, they're shifting
Hmm.
because times are changing.
Yeah.
Where and our city is growing, so there's a lot of things that were done in silos that they're trying to shift, and sometimes it's hard. It's not just turning one aircraft carrier, it's turning multiple aircraft carriers and get them in the same line, in the same order, and same sync to help move everyone forward. And it's difficult. It's not
Hmm.
easy.
Yeah. And I think that comes, it's something you mentioned just dropped back in my spirit. And when you talk about there's 5 events happening on the same day, I know this is something that we talked about not too long ago because Black Santa came to y'all. Santa Blair came to town, and Santa Blair was here. He was there. He was everywhere. He was on the sleigh, and his Rudolph was like his chief elf had him in all the places. And I remember talking to my husband and saying, wouldn't it be fantastic if everybody brought their event to
Hmm.
one location and like the whole city could have one fantastic experience all together? And we talked about some of the challenges that come along with like getting groups or getting organizations. It's a little easier to get individuals
Right.
to unify and come together and to all focus on something. But when you're dealing with this organization has to get with this organization, and we've got to, there's some
Yeah.
challenges that come
Yeah.
along with that. What do those look
I
like?
mean, everyone they have their own chiefs. Um, they have their own insurance forms that have to be filled out. They got to get permission from different higher ups to work with this group or that group because everyone's trying to protect their brand.
Hmm.
And sometimes I think in us trying to protect our brand and who we are, we lose our brand
Hmm.
because we lose it in the minutia of paperwork.
Hmm.
And I think what we have to get back to, and we really want to talk about unity, is saying, okay, we understand the event, we understand what you're trying to do. How can we work? How do we get to yes?
Yeah.
I think that's the key. And if we want to continue to work together and bring groups together, how do we get to yes? But also is communication, coordination. If an organization has to go up 15 levels high before they can get a sign off, to send two people to an event, well, how much time do you need to start that
Right.
conversation?
Right.
So, given that upfront notice
Hmm.
of, hey, this is what we want to do. I'll say anyone, if you're trying to plan, get Santa Blair back for next year. I know he's busy right now,
He's
getting the
tremendously
sleighs
busy.
and everything going. But that's a conversation to start on, later this week
Yeah.
of organizing for the next year. All right, anything you're trying to do this summer, for Juneteenth,
Hmm.
organizing now. Or African American month or Native American month,
Hmm.
Hispanic month, whatever it is, working and organizing now, but also supporting each other.
Hmm.
You don't have to be African American to support Kwanzaa.
I was just
You
about
know,
to I was just about to name it. The thing that you just said. You talked about African American Heritage Month. You talked about Indian American Heritage Month. There's Pacific Islander Heritage. Everybody has these individual highlights, and people sometimes get twisted or get offended. Well, they did this for this, and they didn't do it for that, and they did. Well, what if we all showed up to everybody's stuff? What if everybody came out for the Greek Fest? What if everybody came out for Hispanic Heritage Month and all the festivals and the really cool stuff that they have then? What if everybody was a part of everything?
Mhm.
I think that the level of unity that we could show by learning from each other and by appreciating everybody's individual cultures, I think would take us a long way.
Yeah, it's about respecting it. Even
Hmm.
if you can't show up or whatever, respecting that culture, because once you want someone to respect yours,
Right.
and in order to receive respect, you got to give it.
Hmm.
And sometimes it doesn't matter who's first, just do it.
Right.
And sometimes I think we get caught up in who's first, who's second, who's third. Just do it.
Yeah.
Um, that's something I've been trying to be more intentional on. And some of the things, since I've had a little break
Hmm.
here, just refocusing and setting about how to just be intentional, move forward. And, sometimes you got to clean up and clean out.
Hmm.
But in doing that, don't forget who you are.
Right. I think something, well, and not forgetting who we are, I think that there is tremendous credit to be paid to the Black church and the entity that it is, because Big Mama didn't have to go through seven deacons to cook sweet potato pies and sell them to
Hmm.
raise money for, whatever
Right.
the effort was. The one that I always use is Brother Martin coming to town. They didn't have to like get permission to do what they were going to do
Hmm.
to raise the money. They just all got together, and if there wasn't enough sugar, somebody went in their store and got sugar. If they needed canned peaches, somebody went in their stash and pulled out the canned peaches. Everybody contributed in a very stone soup manner, and there was not a hierarchy to fight with or to have to fight through and get clearance from all of these things. You could just contribute, you could just
Hmm.
do the thing that was right to do in that moment. So I think that we are going to have to go back to the big mama mentality in some of this, and just,
Right.
that baby is hungry, so pack a little something extra and your baby can share, and just dropping off a coat at the school, just dropping off a little extra, um, wherever you're gonna be donating, just knowing that there's somebody who's going to be in need, and you don't need permission always to be helpful.
Mhm. And also making sure, if you're not the one doing, we're not judging the person who is.
Mm,
Um,
preach.
it's about showing that support and that respect, to the person who at least they're trying. A lot of times people do get it wrong,
Hmm.
but what effort did they take? What are
Right.
they trying to
Right.
do? I always tell, someone told me a long time ago, if not me, who? If not now, when?
Hmm.
And that's what continues to drive me in everything that I do.
Well, since you took it there, let's talk more about everything that you do, because you are council member Corey Branch, the city council representative to District C for the last 9 years.
8 going into the ninth.
Okay, well, we're gonna take credit for the ninth year. I'm gonna give you that. I'm gonna
That
bless you
works.
with that
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 works.
other year. Um, but I have the unique position of having been there for every single election, for every single term, even the one that we didn't get the most votes in. I won't say we lost it, but even the one that you didn't get the most
Right.
votes in. And so I just want you to talk a little bit about how the concept of unity and how unifying District C has always been at the forefront of your work as a council member.
So for me, being born and raised here, I've seen a lot of the challenges
Hmm.
that people face. Um, I understand those that, have a hard time going out getting clothes. Was unknown to a lot of people that even, both my parents worked, and everything. But even growing up as a kid, I would used to get clothes from my neighbor, that my mom would go through, see what I could wear, and for school, because they were still trying to make ends meet. Both of
Hmm.
my parents from Eastern North Carolina. So and they moved here after my moved to DC. My brother was born. They moved back, and they moved to Raleigh. So then I was born about 8 9 years later. Depending on the months. Um, my brother was born in '69. I was born in '78.
Hmm.
Um,
And I bet Dwayne could tell you exactly how long it is.
Yeah, he will. But my birthday's in January. His is in April, so I'm good. Um, but in growing up and seeing that, and understanding sometimes, what are we going to eat? I remember pork and beans and franks.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have this illusion that because I've graduated from A&T and, I'm in engineering and I've been doing it now for 23 years that, oh, he's got it made. He silver spoon in his mouth. Nah, I know what it takes to shuck corn.
Mm-hmm.
I've been down to my
We got
grandmother's.
sweet
We
potatoes.
shuck corn, snap beans.
Mm-hmm.
I understand what that's about,
Mm-hmm.
and hard work. And, did I work as hard as my dad did growing up? No.
Mm-hmm.
But my father didn't want me to work as hard as he did,
Right.
So I think of about our families and our communities. The ultimate goal is for the generations behind us
Mm-hmm.
to not have to work as hard, but still have the same respect, the same morals, the same drive,
Mm-hmm.
to want to be successful and help other people who may need help, and working together.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the reasons why, and I know where you're going, so I'm going to say it. Well, I'm going to run it for mayor. No, next year. So November 5th, 2024 selection day. So that's the reason why, I look at the city, that I see my friends and I see my peers, and everyone didn't move back to Southeast Raleigh,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them didn't move back because their parents are still
Mm-hmm.
living in the house they grew up in.
Right.
But also there's some things that, this, as we say, the South Side didn't have compared to different parts of the community.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a very great Tower Shopping Center. You can't really go there anymore to shop.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of, it doesn't look the same. So what can we do to try to bring those things back? And it's a heavy lift.
It is.
It's a real
It
heavy
is.
lift. It's not something that you can do in 1, 2, or 3 years. But there's been some wins, I've seen in the district, as far as we have transportation that goes all the way out to Battle Ridge, that never occurred before I was on council. We made some progress with the Old Town development where we have housing, but we don't just all market rate housing. We've done a lot with affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
And District C carries more affordable housing than any other district in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I dare anybody to question me on that, and show me the data. That's different. So with that work and everything that's happening, how do we keep the city united?
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that have happened, across our city where some people I don't think feel they're being heard or
Right.
that they're being listened to.
Right.
And it takes the time where we have to do that. Since I've been on council, there are people that I know they didn't want me to win election after election, and they said it. It's on social media that there are receipts out
It
there
sure
for it.
is.
Um, but yet and still, some of those individuals I'm able to have a conversation with now,
Mm-hmm.
because for me, the bigger picture is the community. So the thing is, what is it they're saying that they're saying I'm not doing or the community's not doing, and how can we work together? Everything's not about throwing money at it,
That's
because
true.
when you throw money at it, the money spent, what do you do next?
Right.
The city doesn't print money. Some people believe we do, we don't. So how do we find a way to invest? And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, in community and organizations and uplifting people. And you mentioned Big Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Big Mama will find a way to get her sweet potatoes. She'll go talk to whomever she need to talk to, work out something. She'll, may tell the farmer, hey, I need these sweet potatoes. People are like, she may not have the money. He'll say, okay, you can have the sweet potatoes. Make me some pies too.
That's it.
So instead of her making
Mm-hmm.
just her straight 10 pies, she may make 15 and
There you
give that
go.
farmer 3,
There you
and
go.
then give the others out to others in the community. So we have to find a way from an economic standpoint to make sure everyone has an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to be successful. How do we remove barriers? How to remove, borders? And doing that also means we have to take the time to listen and be intentional. Even if it's something that we may not want to hear, trust me, it's something we need to hear.
Yeah.
But on the other side of that, just because a request is made doesn't always mean that request is able to be fulfilled. But in doing that, that comes with the conversation. That doesn't come with one person yelling at another person and back and forth. It comes with having a true conversation and trying to figure out what is it we really want to accomplish. Because I've shared this. Ceremonies are great.
Mm-hmm.
Ceremonies are good, but it's just a ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what's the impact? What are the lives you're changing? And that's why I'm running.
Yeah. And I'm tremendously proud of the servant that you are. I'm tremendously proud of the work that you put in because I'm married to the man. I'm married to the man, not the councilman, not the council member. I'm married to the man. And so I witness the late night phone calls. And the text messages. When Twitter blows up, I'm seeing it too. And I am so tremendously proud of the dignity that you always maintain. Um, I'm so proud of the fact that you say what you say and you mean what you say, and you are not going to waver because of public opinion. If you waver and change your mind, it's because you read something or you researched or
Right.
you got new information
Right.
that warrants a change and a shift. And I also am always proud of the way that you seek to unify people, that you really want for the decisions that you're making to be the best decision, whether it's what everybody likes or not. But even when they don't like it, like you said, you are still willing to hear them out and have the conversations around, how can we remain united because we know we have a bigger goal or we have a larger push to maintain. So I want to say that in a public space to
but
you.
but I want to say this too, and you made me think about it is, and that unity. I believe those are things that God has blessed me to be
Mm-hmm.
able to do, and
Because
have
it's a
that,
gift. I don't
and
think I have it.
and speaking of those gifts, because I already know if certain names or certain things come across that you see, you remember the things that may have been said because we're a unit.
Uh huh.
You felt your pain and your uncomfortness, and
Oh, that's a good one.
and 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 out of that, you're very protective,
Mm-hmm.
and I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
that. And I think that's what anyone that is looking to be in leadership or go out, you have to have a team or a unit around you,
Mm-hmm.
and people who are willing to protect you too, because sometimes you can be so giving that you give out,
That's it.
and sometimes you need that person that give that little grunt, and you hear it and you know what it means, and it kind of resets you on how you move forward. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Oh, y'all hear my husband? And you talked about the team. There is a tremendous team behind us. We won't call them by name because it's too many of
Yeah,
them.
we'll forget
They're
somebody.
spread out, and I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But hey, Team Branch, what's up, y'all? Thank you. We love y'all. Um, and there is a great deal of, let's put it this way, there are some risks that come with being unified. um, Talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the fact that when you align yourself with folks, there are certain risks that are attached to that, even when it's a good alignment, even when it's the right alignment, even when it's the right time. There are some risks associated with remaining truly unified to a particular entity.
Definitely, and I just say it plain: haters hate.
Haters hate.
So if you unite with someone that has people who just completely dislike them,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're going to start disliking people associated with them.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to say things. I mean, if y'all want to know the truth, look at Twitter. Everything you need to know is out there, because you have those that, as much as I love social media,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it has pluses.
Mm-hmm.
I think the way it's just a tool,
Yeah,
and any tool used improperly has negative impacts.
that's right.
Um, so when you go and unite with someone and try to work, it could be just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, someone sees you, oh, you're with them. Why are you with them? Yada yada yada. I know that's not government speak, yada yada yada, but that's what we be
It's
hearing.
the correct pronunciation.
Um, in hearing that and everything that's going on, um, You just have to stand strong and know your why.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you in it?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing it? I mean, it goes back to it when you talk about unity, there's a why.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be willing to stand on that why sometimes in order for that unit to work.
Ooh, that's
Um,
good. Ooh,
so,
that's good.
so when we're working and we're out in the thing, just keep the main thing, and remember why you're doing it and your purpose. And as long as I always say when we started off with this, family, family, and family.
Mm-hmm.
We're all made of. Science wasn't my favorite. Even though I'm an engineer, chemistry was not my favorite subject. But when you think about protons and neutrons and electrons that all make up that atom,
Mm-hmm.
and those numbers vary to give you different things and different components and compounds, they're all needed.
Yeah, they're all
They're
necessary.
all necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I say haters hate, sometimes that is the fuel and it's the energy that you need to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell anyone, you know, if you don't like somebody, if you have an issue with them, that's on you. But as long as I know why I'm doing what I'm doing and I know who I'm doing it for and I know who has me,
Mm-hmm.
that's the main thing, because at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we were all birthed into this world via a woman.
Mm-hmm.
When we leave, we're all going to go into the same ground.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to be buried, you're going to be burned.
Mm-hmm.
Or what is only
But
two
even
ways to
the
go.
ashes, even the
And
cremains have
yet
to go
those ashes,
somewhere.
they still go somewhere.
Yeah.
So we have to remember, someone says, this is an artist, his last, dash.
Oh
He
yeah.
says, I live my dash. But it's true. I mean, if you think about it, whenever, our day comes, they're going to have the day we were born
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have the year that we passed. And then there's that dash.
Mm-hmm.
That dash is that unit, it's that unity. That's the one thing that's going to be common with every single person.
Yeah.
The years are going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's going to may have different years. Even if they have the same years, trust me, the time you were born and the time you passed wasn't the same as that other person.
Mm-hmm.
But that dash,
Yeah.
that's going to be common between all of us. So what we do while we're here, how we unite while we're here, is how we change and make this world a better place.
Woo. All right, keep talking, y'all. Um, so let's turn our focus. We've been talking a lot about local. Let's turn our focus to the Pan African world. So, what do you think?
Okay, sorry. Had a moment.
That's what he thinks African dancing is. That's what he imagines in his head.
No, I went to Caribbean.
Oh, okay. Oh,
You
see,
said Pan
see,
African.
that's Pan African. All right. So when we talk about the diaspora, anywhere on the globe where we find Black people,
Mhm.
what do you think is stopping us from uniting more totally for change for Black and Brown people, whether they be Haitian or Caribbean or African or whatever, or African American, right? How do we begin to melt those differences down? And what do you think is stopping us from really achieving a greater sense of Pan Africanness?
Lack of understanding and lack of respect.
Hey.
And the lack of respect is respect from one's history
Mm-hmm.
and path. Um, anyone that, currently now is born and raised in Africa is African.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyone born in the US of African American descent, we call African American.
Mm-hmm.
But our history was changed by the slave trade.
Correct.
So, yay, I was born and raised here.
Mm-hmm.
Genetically, I still have roots in Africa, but I just don't necessarily know them
Mm-hmm.
because ancestors and loved ones were sold and brought, and paperwork and materials. Some probably didn't have paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you think about our brothers and sisters in Caribbean, the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were able to hold on to some of their African roots
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more and a lot longer. But yet and still, I'm sure if you talk to someone from the Caribbean and someone from Africa, they'll still say there's certain things that are different.
Yeah.
So I think if we can get to the point where we come to the point, hey, yay, our ancestors that we can trace back may not come from the exact same place.
Mm-hmm.
We are still united.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts coming to understand. And that's when you start building the respect of each other's culture,
Mm-hmm.
and initiatives. Because, I remember this one thing working with our Leadership Institute with
Mm-hmm.
young people. And one of my good brothers, Craig Reed, he did a presentation and he asked a young man, he said, okay, yeah, everyone's in this room. You go, and I want you to go claim a spot and it's yours. So the person went on stage and stood there. And then he found someone else. He said, now you go claim a spot and it's yours. And the person started going to the same spot the other person is. And he said, stop. Think about all this space in here. Why are you trying to take what he has when there's space over
Mm-hmm.
here that's yet not occupied?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I think we fight too much to try to take from each other
Right.
instead of bringing each other together in a
Mm-hmm.
way to work and do things. So that's why I say unity and respect.
I love that. I mean, and I think that we have to come back to an understanding of the fact that like our roots are the same and therefore our ways of being are very, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
Our, black church looks a whole lot like like black church looks everywhere else. Worship looks like worship looks. The food that we eat is so similar. The way that we eat it is so similar. Um, calling our grandparents nana and mama
Mm-hmm.
and those kinds of terms, those are very African in nature. And I think that we forget sometimes our Africanness, which is why I love Kwanzaa so much. Kwanzaa gives us a yearly reminder. It's like that system download, that
Reset.
reset, that reboot every year to help put us in touch with where we come from, not in the sense of like, well, my grandparents are from South Carolina and therefore I gullah, right? So, yes, but that translates to people who were brought here from the Sierra Leone. And that translates to you are African. And that translates to there are African ways of being and approaching the world that are in you. And so I just appreciate Kwanzaa so much for being that system reset every
Mm-hmm.
year that I know I need. And it also helps me to be curious about the world. Like I want to visit these countries. I
Mm-hmm.
want to go to South America. I want to go to the Caribbean, and I don't want to just go to the touristy,
Right.
the resort and hang out. Like I want to go into the heart of it and meet the people and see the people, and I want that authentic food, and I want to hear, I want to go party in the authentic nightclub. Like, what are y'all listening to?
Right.
I want all those things. And so I think that in terms of unifying and having a sense of pan Africanness, I do have tremendous respect for our brothers and sisters across the globe. And I think that with that comes having a healthy awareness of what our struggles are across
Right.
the globe, and knowing what Black and Brown people are suffering and enduring and overcoming um, throughout the world.
Agree.
So we are coming up on our time. Do you have any closing thoughts? And specifically, I would love for you to just talk about how Kwanzaa shows up in your everyday life. Like, how does Kwanzaa like keep poking its head up?
Um, for me, it's, you know, just making sure that I have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about, Nia,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the one that of all seven that always stuck with me first
Mm-hmm.
was having purpose. And then the one I always have a hard time saying, Kuchaglia.
There it is.
Okay, there it is. Self-determination. Um, just staying true to myself, and to my family, and just making sure that I'm present. And sometimes being present means taking that time to just reset yourself, because we're always going and moving. Sometimes you need to step away in a quiet moment,
Mm-hmm.
and pray to whomever you pray to. I pray to God,
Mm-hmm.
big shout out to Baptist Grove,
Hey, Baptist Grove.
Reverend Ben Coley. I can bend you. See, I didn't butcher my pastor's name. Forgive me,
Well,
Lord.
he butchered Kuji Chagalia too, so
Yeah,
don't feel
I'm
bad.
trying. I'm trying. Um, but the thing is, my heart is in the right place,
that
and
that
that's what the seven principles for me is about: making sure your heart is in the right place, and making sure that our history is not just Black history.
right.
It's American history.
Mm-hmm.
It's world history.
Mm-hmm.
When the next time you go and you see a refrigerated truck, think of about an African American. The next time you get to a stoplight
Mm-hmm.
and you stop, please stop on red, and go on green. An African American male, did that. Even sometimes when you think about the fighting that's going on in the world
Yeah.
and people wearing masks and things of that nature, that gas mask, African American thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think sometimes in our society, people get so caught up on Black history, white history, Native American history, Hispanic history. It's good to identify the source.
Yeah.
Always recognize the source, but remember that it's still part of who we are as a people,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're all connected. And that if we don't remember that we're all connected, then we'll all be connected because we'll all be gone.
That part.
So
That part.
so those are the things I think about. And I just, I want to wish everyone a great holidays. Hope everyone had a good Christmas. For those that celebrate Christmas, everyone just peace,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to just briefly say for those, out in the world, especially over in the Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
that we can just find a way to find some peace. You know, Jesus came so we can't do, a eye for eye anymore.
Right.
That was the reason of his birth and love. So when we think about that and we think about these seven principles, these principles are about coming together
They are.
and working through our conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
So just all those that are caught up in these world affairs, I reach out my hearts to you. Our family, we love you all, and we just ask that we find a way to come together and unite, and just remember, sometimes things don't move quickly, but we got to keep working at it.
Yeah.
It's when we give up hope, when we stop, that's when our candles go out.
Ooh, keep the candle burning. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you were able to join me for Kwanzaa again for season two. This is it's a tremendous opportunity. I do not take it for granted that you carved a few moments out of your busy schedule to accommodate us and to be here with us for night one of our Kwanzaa celebration. Again, my special guest tonight is Corey Branch. If you would like to find him and connect with him, here is his information. You can find him um, at Corey for Mayor on Instagram, and you can also go to his website, corybranch.com. I'm so pleased that you were able to be with me, and we're gonna keep Kwanzaa rolling.
Keep
Tomorrow
it
night we
rolling.
have another special guest. It's gonna be tremendous, and we're gonna keep going from greater to greater. Tonight we have our single candle lit. It is for the people, and we discuss unity on this night. So I just want to thank you for being here. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and I want to wish you a happy Kwanzaa.